Welcome y'all, Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we're going to talk specifically about treated or untreated seeds, if you need those in your food plots, and at what points would those be beneficial, and at what points would they be considered a waste of money. If you don't know, my name's Wes. I run DIY Food Plot Pro. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Agronomy degree. I farm for a living, and I have an 1,800-acre whitetail deer hunting outfitter in western Kentucky where we cannot bait. So we rely heavily on food plots to feed the whitetails that we hunt. We're standing in a soybean and lab plot that I planted late in the summer. I planted this spot specifically to hunt whitetails in September and October over a green source where most of the other plots had died at that point. I planted this very late in the year. This was a booming success. You can see behind me in that nook right there, I've got a brassica plot to kind of spice the plot up a little bit. Seed treatments are looked down upon in the food plot industry a lot of times. A lot of hunters see that as a waste of money, as a way for the seed companies to sell them more pounds and actually give them less seed. While certainly there's some cases of that going on, we're going to go through the entire seed treatment today, and I'm going to let you know how I feel about it from a science standpoint. Why would we need to use seed treatments? Why would we not need to use seed treatments? So a seed treatment is typically an insecticide and a fungicide, and that is to help that plant get up out of the ground. Basically, the way it works is you plant a seed in the ground. That seed is going to suck all the moisture up around it until it's swelled up enough to start the germination process. When it happens, it busts that seed open and the seedling starts coming out of it, okay? When that process takes a very long time, that plant is very susceptible to diseases and to insect pressure, ending its life essentially before it ever gets going. When conditions are a little on the cold side, a little on the wet side, you have prolonged periods of that type of weather, a seed treatment helps that seedling survive some of those insects and disease pressure that you're going to have when that seed is just basically sitting there in the ground. Have you ever planted a seed one time and the seed come up in 3 days, and the next time it take 10 or 12 days for the seed to come up? So basically what happens on that process is heat is required. The warmer the soil is, the warmer the outside temperature is, the quicker that process will be. So if it's really cold, that seed is just going to sit there and do that very slowly. Vice versa, if it's really warm, that seed is going to be planted and it's going to be up a lot faster than that seed that was planted in the cold. At DIY Food Plot Pro, I always recommend you waiting until conditions are right. I don't want my corn, my soybeans, any of my food plots sitting out there for 10 to 2 weeks sitting in cold soils. Even if they are treated, that's not something that I'm interested in doing. I want to wait about a month to a month and a half after my last frost, and I'm going to plant my corn and my soybeans out here, and they're going to be up just like that. Soybeans are going to be up in 3 to 4 days. Corn's going to be up in about 7 days under perfect conditions. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's a time for it. When you're planting into cold, wet soils, seed treatment's a great thing. When you're planting into warm conditions and conditions are right, I think that's something that I don't necessarily think I would be interested in. For small seeds and for seeds where pounds per acre are critical, such as the place with turnips, I think it makes a lot of sense to have treated turnip seeds. Here's why. For turnips, we're only looking at like 5 to 6 pounds per acre. That's a teeny amount. It's very easy to spread too much and get it too thick, and then you're not going to get that bulb that you want. For their small seeds like that, I think sometimes that makes sense where you can visually see the seed on top of the ground and you know that you're not putting it too thick, where if you just use a standard turnip seed that's brown, very difficult, maybe impossible for you to see that seed in this type of environment right here. There are certain seeds that require a seed coating. These are going to be any type of legumes. Your clovers, your alfalfas, your soybeans, your lab, your peas, all those things that are legumes that you're going to plant as a food plot need a seed treatment. Whether you buy it untreated and treat it yourself, or if you buy it treated, they need that seed treatment. What that seed treatment does, that enables that clover, that alfalfa, those soybeans to make their own nitrogen. Essentially, rhizobia bacteria grow on the roots. They're able to make its own nitrogen for that plant. So it saves you a ton of money not having to put a nitrogen source on those food plots. Do I need to put that rhizobia bacteria on every year? That's a great question. Clovers and alfalfas, anytime you plant those, I would make sure that I had that seed coated in that rhizobia bacteria, that inoculant. You can buy that specifically, and there are different kinds for each plant, so make sure that you get the inoculant that is used for the plant that you are using. There's clover inoculant, alfalfa inoculant, soybean inoculant. All those are different. So make sure you get the one for the crop that you're wanting to plant. For soybeans, for lab, for peas, any other legume other than your perennials, I would recommend planting it every year. Is it necessary? No. In most cases, they claim that as long as you've planted soybeans on this field, sometime in the last 2 or 3 years, the rhizobia bacteria should be in the soil and ready to go. In my opinion, inoculant's cheap. Why would you take that risk? If the rhizobia bacteria don't infect the roots and you don't get that start that you want, you're gonna end up throwing a bunch of nitrogen out there. And nitrogen's very expensive. So for me, if I'm going to plant soybeans or lab or any other legume, I'm going to go ahead and add the inoculant every year. Now, I did this last year with this specific plot. The soybeans were treated, but the lab was untreated. The lab struggled and stayed yellow for a pretty good while until the soybeans got some size and they were fixing nitrogen. And then I think at that point, the lab started robbing the soybeans of the extra nitrogen the soybeans were making. So I think it's very important to note that lab needs its own inoculant. You want these plants to be dark green. That's going to be your giveaway that your food plot is not fixing its own nitrogen for your legumes. It's going to be if you have a light yellow colored plant, you want that dark green lush plant to tell you that that plant's making all the nitrogen that it can and feeding that plant. So as many of you know, I have never been a huge soybean in the winter kind of fan. I like planting soybeans for a forage over the summer, but I've never had deer really utilize them really good in the winter. But I may have to back up with that right there, because I had a beautiful stand of soybeans out here along with the lab. And as I walked out here, I have never seen as many deer tracks as what's in this little field right here. It is literally covered in deer tracks. And there are very few soybean plants that still have pods left on them. The deer definitely have utilized this spot. And one thing that I really like about what I'm seeing right now, this was growing, this got to a little over belly button high, just a dark green forage, and it was really looking good. There was a ton of vines in the lab, and the soybeans were vining. They really grew well together. And I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to plant anything in here without having to work the ground again. But as I walk out through this, I think this is perfect for frost seeding some clover this late winter. I'm easily going to be able to get enough seed to soil contact to go ahead and frost seed clover in here, which was the original plan. That's what I wanted to do. For any of you interested that would like some help with your food plots in 2024, asking questions, be able to talk to an expert food plotter, I have started a website, www.diyfoodplotpro.com. It's a subscription-based website where you can sign up and you can ask as many questions as you want. I have a 1-month membership, a monthly membership, and I have a yearly membership. The monthly is $10. The yearly is $100. So you save $20 if you do the yearly subscription, and that is to help a lot of food plotters with their food plots. If that's something that you would be interested in, go to www.diyfoodplotpro.com. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Smash that like and subscribe button if you found the video helpful.